Well, folks, we've got some patch notes. The teased balance changes are fully revealed in this one. Frankly, nothing too surprising. We've also got a little bit of a teaser for something coming soon and some Battlegrounds changes as well. So let's go ahead and jump into these Hearthstone balance updates with this dev comment. The meta is relatively stable right now with just a few outliers. Our goal with this patch is to reduce frustration and give weaker decks a bit more breathing room by reducing the overall power level of Hunter. So Hunter, as we saw with all the Wild Seed cards getting nerfed, and we'll talk through those details soon, and also the Harpoon Gun, also Theatar, as you saw teased here. But on top of that, the one notable outlier that is not getting changed, but which we're keeping a close eye on, is Prince Renathal. And that was something I talked about in my teaser video, how his percentages are just the highest I've ever seen in Hearthstone. He is powerful and popular, but we don't want this patch to completely shake up the meta because we have something fun coming in the patch 24.6, and we want to see how Renathal performs in the next expansion before making changes to him. So the .6 patches are actually the like pre-expansion setup patches where the pre-orders go live and we often get one new card from the next expansion released early, which actually was Prince Renathal last time around in the 23.6 expansion. So we might be getting something like a Death Knight themed card is kind of a theory out there. Maybe the Death Knights of old themselves could be coming back in 24.6. I don't know, but something fun at least has been teased here for the next expansion, and that's really probably only a few weeks away at this stage. Typically that's early in the month for the month preceding the expansion, which means early November preceding a release, and early December is that typical schedule. So maybe could even squeeze into late October potentially as well. So stay tuned for that. Renathal, we'll see how he goes after that point, but they're hopeful, I guess, that Renathal will get weaker. Now, in regards to the actual nerfs themselves, as I said before, there's really nothing too surprising here. We already saw the cards that are getting changed, and I don't think any of the changes are super dramatic. In fact, with Theatar the Mad Duke here, he's going from 4 mana to 5 mana. I would argue that's perhaps not enough of a change for Theatar. I really don't think his play rate changes much at all at 5 mana. Yes, very occasionally that 1 mana can be substantial. It can be meaningful in a given turn because you can't weave in some other card next to Theatar. It slows you down just a little. But frankly, decks that are running Theatar already can probably afford to spend 5 mana just as much as they could afford to spend 4. So I really don't think this changes how often you're going to see Theatar much, nor does it change how frustrating he feels, which is a lot of people's complaints. Losing their win conditions, Theatar hitting the perfect card all the time. I see these complaints all the time. I don't think that goes away at all with Theatar to 5 mana. So this really feels more like a little tickle than an actual nerf. I think people are going to remain pretty frustrated by this card, so I'm sad they didn't do more. A lot of people wanted a mechanics change. I didn't expect that. It might have been welcome. I didn't think that would happen, but I thought maybe pushing him to 6 mana would be a bigger, more noteworthy jump that would limit him all the more than certainly just a 1 mana change. Oh, in fact, we have some comments here. I didn't know these were here. Let's read these. Theatar is a defining card of the current meta. He plays an important role in giving players agency against powerful late game plays, but he can also be very frustrating to lose to. We don't want him to be one of the most popular cards in the next expansion. Our goal with this change is to lower his play rate across all ranks. If his play rate doesn't drop significantly with this change, we'll evaluate further changes at the next opportunity. Okay, I think that will happen. That's fair. They're watching closely. I suspect he'll get another nerf in that case because I don't think he's going away at 5 mana. Now, in regards to the Wild Seeds, we've got the Stag Spirit Wild Seed now going to a 4/3 instead of a 5/4. Once again, I actually suggested or proposed a more significant nerf than this even to the Stag Spirit. It feels so strong to be able to get the weapon and the body, but this is the second time already the Stag Spirit has been nerfed, so they're just whittling away at this one. Hopefully this makes it feel less crazy when they get that Wild Seed. I will say that 3 health is a nice break point for a lot of stuff to clear it fairly easily, so that 5/4 body won't be nearly as threatening. Easier to remove and packs a little less punch. The Bear Spirit Wild Seed here going to 2/4. This was the thought everybody had, just pulling it back a little bit, but doesn't feel too oppressive. I think that's a nice subtle change for this one. And then, of course, the Harpoon Gun getting reverted back to its original 2 cost discount. That's how it was printed. Then it got buffed. and now it's back to 2. Again, this was a completely expected change, and I think fitting. Harpoon Gun still looks like a good card. I think the Wild Seed cards will frankly still be pretty good as well. There's just a lot of stats bundled into all of those, and I think Theatar is going to be good. So I don't really expect this patch to make a huge difference. Now, I mean, there are 3 Hunter cards getting changed. That's significant in itself. Of course, Hunter will lose a couple percentage points, but I think Beast Hunter will actually still be a pretty dang good deck. I think it will still very well be near the top of the meta. We may see a few decks gain if they had a bad matchup against Beast Hunter, but for the most part, I don't think this is going to do anything drastic to shake up the meta, which I guess based on that initial dev comment was not really the expectation. Sounds like we're in a little bit more of a holding pattern until new stuff drops whenever that next .6 patch actually connects. Oh, here we go. We've got some more comments on Hunter. I need to learn to scroll a little bit better. Hunter has been the most popular, arguably most powerful class of the game for some time, especially in lower ranks. These changes are meant to address some of the sharper play patterns in this class, while simultaneously lowering the overall class power level. I get that. Like, this lowers the kind of Hydralodon spike on turn 4 to turn 5. Gives everybody a little bit more wiggle room. Reduces some of the pressure of the Stag Spirit Wild Seed a little bit. So I think that's reasonable claim. The above craftable cards, as well as Spirit Poacher, Stag Charge, Wild Spirits, and Airlon, will be eligible for dust refunds. I actually think it's pretty cool that they're nerfing the Wild Seed cards themselves, because that means you get refunds across all of this stuff, including a legendary and an epic, I think, too, right? So that's better than, say, nerfing like just Stag Charge, because then only Stag Charge would get a dust refund, or only Spirit Poacher, instead getting refunds across the whole set. That's actually nice. They're not being cheap when it comes to refunds. Now, on top of these standard changes, we've got some Battlegrounds updates here. I'm frankly not going to go through these in great detail because I haven't been playing Battlegrounds, and I don't think most of you watching are probably super dedicated Battlegrounds players either. That said, it looks like Flurgle here is getting a nerf to his hero power. It takes more minions to get the Murloc, but he's also getting an armor tier bonus here to compensate perhaps for that change. The Smoking Gun here, this passive, it's getting a nerf, but it's easier to earn. So not really sure the implications of that from a play pattern standpoint. Maybe you get it a little bit earlier, and that's better in the mid game, but it falls off harder in the late game. That would be my estimation if I had to guess. We've also got some shuffling around for dragons. The Nether Drake is moving to tier 3. It's getting a little bit of a stat bump to help it out, moving to tier 3. And then the Twilight Emissary is moving back to tier 2 to swap places with it and getting a little bit of a stat loss. I'm guessing that this guy is pretty powerful if you snowball him early, so they're pushing him back a little bit and filling in the gaps from the curve standpoint with the Twilight Emissary. On top of that, we've got one bug fix or game improvement for this patch, which certainly doesn't sound very significant, but nonetheless, happy to see any bug fixes we can get. So all in all, those are your 24.4.3 patch notes. Honestly, not a lot has changed here as far as I'm concerned. I think a lot of this was like, okay, we're going to do a little bit, wait and see what happens next. I think bigger changes to Theatar will be required if we want Theatar to really feel like he's a card that's gone away at least a little, or mitigated at least a little. That said, curious to hear your thoughts on these patch notes. Did you think they did enough? Did Theatar need more of a nerf? Did Hunter need a bigger change? Are you going to dust all your Wild Seed cards? I want to hear those thoughts and more in the comments below. But until then, thanks much for watching, and until next time, game on.